Welcome everyone to Filmmakers and their films. Today we'll be talking about creativity and truth. And with us we have Raghavendra sir, who's a well-known film critic and author. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you. This thing is about creativity and truth. It's not the truth, which would become religious category. It's just truth, the various truths, artistic truth more than it, because artistic truth are manifold. Any number of artistic truths are there, infinite number of artistic truths. Whereas the truth, which religious truth, there's only one. I mean, or rather, depending on the thing. Okay. So now the thing is, there are various things that creative people strive for, look for. One is innovation, one is perfection, and one is insight, right? These are the three things. Now, innovation is more related to the utilitarian aspects like design, okay? More comfortable chair, okay? A cheaper way of doing something, right? Doing it quicker. That sort of thing is innovation in some sense, right? If you have any point, you have any questions or doubts, you please come back. This is somewhat speculative. So you can come back and tell me, it'll help me also. Okay. Perfection is by and large craft related. Okay. Since it's craft related, okay. Insight is related some way to the truth. Okay. That is, it is truth in the sense that it is some recognition of some particular aspect of the world. Okay. You recognize something, you see something, it's a certain thing which you always thought of, you never expressed, right? That's insight. Okay. Now, John Berger, the art critic, there's a book called Art and Revolution. In this Art and Revolution, he says, between, he talks about the distinction between craft and art. He says, he gives an example. Two sculptors, he says, are carving spheres. The craftsman will make a perfect sphere. The artist makes a sphere, say a rubber balloon, filled to bursting with water. That's his thing. Why is one art and the other is craft? Now, if you look at in the perfect sphere, there is no truth in the perfect sphere. Okay. There's perfection there. There is no truth. You look at a balloon. If you look at a balloon, which is, shall we say, filled to bursting, what does the balloon look like? It's got certain parts where the rubber is thick, certain parts where the rubber is thinner. So when you fill it with water and blow it up full of water, you will find it's sort of the thinner areas juts out a little. It's not perfect. But the question is, through the carving of this sphere, you convey some kind of inner tension within the balloon, okay? That inner tension, the tension between the water trying to burst outwards and the rubber trying to contain that, okay? That is a certain truth, okay? Which is why we are always trying to look for this kind of thing, balance and this kind of thing, right? Position, time, okay, balance. This is the kind. It's like some kind of moment in a continuum, in an equilibrium of some sort, right? So the question is that there is some kind of truth in this notion of a balloon filled to us bursting with water, which is not there in the perfect sphere, right? So this is what. So the question is, the artist's sphere has certain obligations to show, to reveal new aspects of the world, to catch something. For example, let me say this, right? If you take a picture if you take a photograph of the balloon filled to bursting, that photograph will not highlight this in some way, right? A painting would. A painting would contain the truth. The photograph, in some way, what the photograph would do would just capture verisimilitude, right? Capture what is in front of it. Whereas here, it'll have to be focused in some way. It'll have to convey it in some sense. So that kind of the inner tension will have to be conveyed through the painting. So the sculpture or the painting of that will have a certain element of truth, where a simple photograph will not. I'm not saying photographs can't contain the truth, but that photograph has to be taken in a certain way, okay, for it to contain the truth. By and large, a simple photograph of shall we say, a balloon filled to bursting will not contain that, suggests that tension which the sculpture is required to, okay. Now let's look at it, okay. The truth which is conveyed by the arts, by art or whatever the arts, okay, is artistic truth. It can be about people, about psychology, that is internal, or it can be external, philosophical, social, political, okay. But it must be recognizable from common experience in the world, okay. All of us, the reader, the spectator, everybody who looks at this particular object or whatever, must be able to recognize that from his or her own experience. This entire thing of what is the truth, that has to be recognized, right? That's very important. Okay, like for example, if you take religious truths, for example, God is love, you take something like God is love, or you take the Hindu thing of what is this, aham brahmasmi, that is I, the atman and the brahman are the same, I am the brahman, that sort of thing. These are not truths in that sense, because they cannot be, shall we say, grasped except through by mystics, by those specially chosen people. They will not be grasped by the ordinary common person living through common everyday experience. So the point is that all artistic truths have to address common everyday experience of the person. Okay, it could also, by and large, what we mean by everyday would include, for example, what we learn from the media. Today, for instance, I just saw a movie, a very interesting thing about the Serbian thing, Serbian Kosovo, all that thing. The very fact that ordinary people have suddenly become, they gain power, what happens to them. But we are not accustomed to that, in the sense we are not accustomed to it in our everyday lives, what very highly powerful people are, what happens to them. But the point is, we recognize this as a truth. It is not that we come across this. We should be able to, from our everyday experiences, extrapolate in some way and recognize something which is very special as a truth of this world. For example, I'll give you Dostoevsky's characters. You'll never meet people like Dostoevsky's characters in everyday life, but somehow they seem truthful, right? You can extrapolate certain characteristics in the people you've seen around you and find them present in some measure in Dostoevsky's characters. Okay, this is what I mean, right? So the question is, before experience can be made into truth, okay, it has to be organized. As I said, the rubber balloon filled to bursting with water is itself, photograph of it will not contain that truth. It will have to be depicted in a certain way. It will have to be a focus of some sort, right? The focus of some sort, it has to be intensified in some way, okay, to drive home that thing to you. Okay, that's very necessary. All right. So the question is, okay, but whether it is truth or not, it is truth or not, is open to debate, and which is why we have criticism. We have criticism, basically, in my opinion, not everybody does this sort of criticism, is to actually look at this and tell you whether what this man is saying, is it truthful or not truthful. Okay, that is why we have criticism. Basically, the fundamental kind of criticism, I don't mean academic criticism, I mean fundamental criticism is meant to tell you, but when a work of art is, when I say a great work of art, we think something is a great work of art, other people don't think. You have criticism where different people debate on this issue. Is what he is saying, what this person is saying, he or she is saying, is it true or is it not true? Okay, this is a question. Okay, so that is why we have criticism. Any questions up to here? Now, when we come to cinema, okay, it's collaborative. Okay, organization involves getting other people's involvement. That is, cinematography must suit the purpose, the music must suit the purpose, performance must suit the purpose. All of them are very important. Okay, if you take, for instance, Fellini, I'll be looking Fellini's 8.5, the very first film. Can you imagine Fellini without Nino Rota in attendance, with Giuseppe Rotuno in attendance? The point is, a lot of his films, if you look at, for example, a later film like City of Women, where Nino Rota was dead then, so it was somebody else's, it makes a huge difference that if you take away Nino Rota from Fellini, okay, there's a huge difference in the kind of what we get out of his movies. It no longer means the same thing to us. So this entire thing of collaboration is very crucial to cinema. The same thing with Hitchcock and Bernard Herrmann. Okay, so the question is, a lot of the actors, a lot of these people, Roma kind of acting, the kind of performances that Roma got, all these are very important. So cinema is a very collaborative kind of art. Okay. So we cannot rule out this fact that it is not simply the expression of the director. There's a lot of thing which is said that this author thing, that the director is the author of the film, but it's a very collaborative effort. Without that collaboration coming into play, cinema might not be able to come up with the truth or be expressive in any way. Okay. Now we've come to this. Let's go to the second one. Yeah, Fellini. Let's go to the thing on 8.5. Okay. No, I hope all of you have seen 8.5. It's a film which everybody knows. Okay, it's one of the classics
that
of cinema.
Makes me realize that how old I have become to be.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I do remember
That's
the
right.
movie. I did see that movie, and now that it just made me feel extremely old.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It was one of my favorite movies once upon a time. Yeah. I sort of got into cinema through that almost. Okay. Now in this film, Guido is a celebrity filmmaker who has had mixed success in the past. Some people admire him, others don't. He's sort of generally known to everybody. He is basically wanting to make an autobiographical film, right? Based on his own life, his own relationships. This is basically it. Memories and experiences to be organized. The whole purpose is he wants to organize his movie in some way, or organize his life in some way, as to make a film out of it. Now, the point is, he does not make a distinction between his fantasies, okay, his utopian ideals, okay, utopian ideals, the women in his life, his philandering, all of them have to come together somehow, right? This is basically what he's trying to make. All of them has to put together, okay? So the question is, he's had a heart attack. The very first thing is a heart attack, okay? The basic thing is that the world outside is uncomprehending. The very first scene where he comes out of the car, all of them are looking at him. It's threatening in some sense. It's uncomprehending. And finally, he's brought down by a kite or so, and he's brought down to the earth. He's had a heart attack or some such thing. He's recovering from a dream, right? Now, the important thing here is, okay, he has spent a lot of money. He used up the producer's money. He's got actors to come from various places. He does all this. Okay, he doesn't know how to proceed. This is a very important thing for him. He doesn't know how to proceed, what exactly he's going to do. He's still trying to figure out all these things. Okay, now the film includes this collaborative part. Can you tell others what you want? Communicate to them. Okay, when you have what you have to say is so personal, can you bring them into your film? This is a fundamental issue in the film. Okay, when you look at it, for example, look at the spaceship. He spent a huge amount of money in the spaceship. That set, extraordinary, terrific set for the spaceship. But why has he brought it in here? Has he brought it in here for, what kind of, how is he going to bring the spaceship into it? Okay. Nobody seems to know. He doesn't know. He can't explain it. But somehow he's got this gigantic seat, this gigantic set erected in some way. Okay. So the question is, then there is this script consultant. The script consultant, look, we've got to understand certain things. The script consultant, everything he's saying in the film is completely legitimate. Okay. It's completely legitimate. What are these things you're putting together from your screenplay? They're just some amusing anecdotes from your life. Do they really mean anything? Do they have anything? Do they have anything to communicate? But what Fellini does here is look at the casting. He's got a cold character, an unappealing character to play the part of the script guy, script writer, okay, script consultant. So the question is, this is the same thing Fellini does, right? The producer, all of them. It is as if only Guido understands what he's trying to do. The others are not really there. So what happens then? You go to this. Can the film really address all these concerns, the Catholic concerns of the producer? Okay. Shall we say, the intellectual concerns of the script consultant is trying to make a film. Can you address all these questions? Is the fundamental thing that the director is trying to wrestle with. This is basically wrestling with. Okay. Now, the basic issue in the film seems to be, what is the acceptable level of the personal? How personal can you get in a work of art? How personal can it get? Okay. Now, the point is, when you look at it, you look at the entire thing of 8.5. Okay. The strange thing is that none of those collaborators have anything to contribute to the film, right? There is not a single, shall we say, a single contribution, a single that Guido gets from any of them. He's, in fact, all of them are completely in the dark of what he wants. His wife is in the dark, the producer is in the dark, the actors are in the dark. Some person is brought in and say he was in America, he knows how to do this, that man does a dance. Okay, just generally to tell you that everybody wants to be in the film, contribute. Nobody has an idea of what he wants. Now, the point is, as if, the whole thing is that it is as if he's actually, what Fellini is doing, actually, you look at it subtly, that's underneath the surface, he's trying to downplay the role of collaboration in a film. Okay. There is something, he made 8 films earlier. He's downplaying the role of collaboration here. So what is he doing? Okay. And look at that scene. It's a beautifully brilliant scene where he's got these various people, right? When he's got these various people to play parts of the various characters in his life. He has that mistress, I forget her name. What's her name? She comes along, somebody playing her. He's got his wife being played by somebody else. I think she uses the same spectacles. He uses the same thing. Now the question is, the wife and he are not getting on very well here. They're not getting on very well in their personal lives, right? She wants it resolved. She wants their personal life resolved. Fellini wants to turn it into art. No, I know the question is, who is really, who is really legitimate in this case? You have your personal life. Okay. Are you, turning without much disguise? You think you're making a film on your personal life. You put your personal life in the public space and you turn it into art. I mean, is that legitimate? Is it not legitimate for the wife to object to this in some way? These are questions, which Fellini doesn't ask. See, I know Pauline Kael, the great American film critic, said at some point that Fellini had himself become the perfect work of art. He gives great interviews, it become the perfect work of art. Okay. Now, the point is that, look, everything in Fellini's film revolves around him in some sense, right? Okay. Revolves around him. Look, we cannot deny the fact that Fellini is a great entertainer. He knows how to put things there. He grabs you. But fundamentally, what is he doing? He's an entertainer. Is he producing art at all? Now, this is a question, I mean, is there truth in 8.5? What is the level of truth in 8.5? Look, you may have doubts about whatever I'm saying. I want you to reflect upon it. What is the truth in 8.5? Is it really true in that sense? This is a question I would like to ask, right? Now, it seems to be that Fellini has some basic confidence in himself as an entertainer, like a good talker, confident of his ability to hold people's attention, right? People who talk, right? Okay, I know I don't want to mention names. I mean, famous people who can talk, extremely well. They write books, they take their speeches and turn it into books. And these books are, when you read them finally, you realize that they hold your attention. But is there any basic, shall we say, are they engaging with the fundamental thing of truth? Are they saying truths? Are they making it reflective? Are they doing something? A lot of them don't. So the question is, in Fellini, when he's turning it into art, when he's trying to turn it into art, is Fellini at all, what is the word? Is he at all producing anything corresponding to the truth, or is he simply entertaining? After I saw, the more I see 8.5, I think, if you look at something like his earlier film, something like I Vitelloni, I would say that there's more of the truth there. There's more attention to the world there, okay, in I Vitelloni than there is. I think, that basically when you're dealing with something like the truth, there has to be some attention to the world. When I say attention to the world, I also mean to psychology. I also mean to behavior. I mean to inner feelings. I mean also that. Fellini doesn't seem to be paying. I think when you come to this film, he's not paying so much attention to this thing anymore. I think already in La Strada, it's beginning to lose. He's lost much of his interest in the world at large. He's getting more and more of himself. But the point is, even that is not a scrutiny of himself, which might mean something else. It's more his own confidence as an entertainer. Okay, now if you look at Claudia. Okay, what exactly is Claudia? Exactly, what is she doing in this film? What are we supposed to make of Claudia? What is she there for? Fellini may not know. I mean, Guido may not know what played by Claudia Cardinali. What exactly is she doing there? So finally, when you look at this film, you look at the film, this whole business of raising money, making a huge thing, and finally, what is the solution of the movie? That Guido is resolving all those issues in his life. He makes no movie at all. That finally he's resolved all the contradictions in his head. I mean, I want to know, is that a legitimate viewpoint for an artist at all? That does an artist make a movie? Does he produce art to resolve the contradictions in his head? Those contradictions must be related in some way to the world at large, right? Okay. Which is why I find this 8.5 very suspect as a film. It's a brilliantly made. There's no doubt about it. Philosophically suspect, because the way of saying that the unmade film which will run in my head, and I will resolve all the contradictions in my life. Look, how do you resolve the contradictions in your life when your wife is against you? Okay, your wife has problems with you, your mistress has problems with you, your producer has problems with you, he has spent money. How? By making a film in your head. How do you making a film and run it in your head? Have you resolved all these issues in the real world? It's like this, right? Okay, we have so many problems in our everyday lives. Okay, at some point, especially after you had a lot of drinking, you have a great feeling that you resolved all these issues, and suddenly there's some kind of moment of clarity in your head, right? When you wake up in the morning, that moment of clarity is no longer there. Okay, can you take that moment of clarity which you have in your head the previous night and think that this is so permanent, it's going to last? This is why I have problems about 8.5 as the exploration of an artist's work. It seems to me to call it self-indulgent would be a simple way of putting it. I think there is no confidence in his, or there is confidence in his work that the entertainment is producing is not very different from his thing of the truth. I think if you look at E. Vitelloni, there is much more in E. Vitelloni corresponding to an external truth, to real relationships there is in this film, where it's all discounted in some way. I mean, 8.5 is the most famous film of the ones I've shown you here, I've listed out here. But this is my problem with 8.5. Now let's look at the next movie, okay, which seems like an antidote to 8.5. Let's look at, I don't know whether this one called Irma Web. Mehmet, have you seen this movie? Irma Web?
Yes, yes, sir.
What about
Yes.
Mohammed? Has he seen it? No?
No,
No.
unfortunately not. I
Have you
just
heard of it?
looked at the last night that but no,
Okay,
I
this is
haven't seen.
a
I'm
film by a
sorry.
chap
Yeah.
called Olivier Assayas. Okay, he's a French guy. Very interesting film. This is about, and again about filmmaking. In this film, okay, any questions up to the last point? Many of you may they look upon
S-
8.5 as a great film. I would welcome
s-
questions, any kind of disagreement on whatever I've said about 8.5.
Sir,
This
I
is,
just like to say something, sir.
please.
Like it does, convey a very unstable mind, and sometimes it happens wherein your thoughts are all over the place. But I didn't get the point you were trying to make, sir. As in truth, you know, on a life. What does that mean, sir?
What, I mean, some truth about it.
No, no. What I meant is he was just trying to say what his life is all about. It's
His
very
life is a, yeah,
confused.
but
Yeah.
one thing you must think about, okay, the way Marcelo Mastroianni plays that role, there is no doubt in Marcelo Mastroianni. He's not playing a doubtful person at all. He's far too confident, right? He's not playing a person beset by anxieties, is he?
I meant like, various thoughts. Your mind goes on everywhere.
Yeah,
It comes
fine,
back.
fine.
Yeah,
That's okay,
that's what
fine.
yeah.
Okay. But but the question is the final word. That's fine. Okay. But the question is, but you have to resolve it in some way. Okay. An artist, I think, is obliged to resolve it through a work of art, right? Okay. It's a production of the work of art. When finally the film is resolved, when there's no work of art at all. Now, look, Fellini has made the movie. Fellini has made the movie. But Guido, getting by without having made the movie, he just resolved these things for himself in his head, right? In the simple way of having everybody in a circus thing, organizing it as a circus. Now, that is what I mean. Now, the question is it not required? Is that resolution or whatever that he has in not required to be manifested in an external work of art, to be put out in the public space? This is the question I'm asking you. Wouldn't have to be put out in the public space, manifested in a work of art? I would ask some of the others also to, Mehmet also, and any of the others to look at this. Do you have any doubts about this? What is your thing on this? Because this is a classic of world cinema. I am not fond of it, but I'm saying it was one of my favorites at one point of time. But I've begun to have some doubts about it. What is your thing on this? Okay, if you talk about art as truth, okay, not merely as producing engaging entertainment. Look, for example, there are for example, there are brilliant sections like the wife, okay, watching. Okay, there is this segment where the wife is watching actors put out there who are playing the thing, the way it's acted out, right? That's brilliant. I tell you, when I say it's brilliant, it is in the sense the difference between life and art, right? Okay, there is some kind of thing, but the question is what he's putting there. I think there is something there. Okay, that scene I think is one of the great scenes in the film, where you actually have a distinction between art is going on in front of you, some kind of effort of expression is going on in front of you, the thing of falsification is going on in front of you, right? It's a falsification of some sort, and here as the wife is there, but the wife calls it falsification of that. She says you're making it up, it's not the truth. She says it's not the truth. But there is something in the film which tells you that the wife is wrong, isn't there? Okay. Isn't it tell you that Guido is actually in the right? He's entitled to do that. Isn't there something there? I think, I
True,
mean, I
true,
correct
sir.
me if I'm wrong. There seems to be
Yes,
something in the film telling you that whatever she is saying is not legitimate. There seems to be something like that. Whereas my own thing is whatever her qualms are, whatever her fears are, whatever her complaints are, they're legitimate. And those are not resolved. The point is, see, the collaborators, all of them have qualms, right? But those qualms are not addressed in the film. Like for example, the lead actress who comes along, who's got that, the snails thing with her, look like a snail, he says. The lead actress of the elderly mother who plays the mother also. Okay, she's got an important role in the film, but she doesn't know what the role is. She says, "I want to get into the role," and she does it in a certain way. It's acted out in a certain way, slightly to make it a little comical, right? Okay, that she is egotistic. She wants to fill a role. Actually, the point is, it's all in the director's head. She doesn't really need a role. You don't even know. You may have 3 roles, 3 minutes for you, 4 minutes for you, maybe five segments or something like that. People laugh. He's really got nothing. Okay, that entire thing of he has nothing to say. So my own thing is agreed with you. I agree with you that the scene, for example, this wife watching her own role being played by somebody else. Okay, it's a brilliant scene talking about the difference between life and art. But Fellini is on the side of, not on the wife's side. Okay, he's taking a position that whatever he does, he's sympathetic, not only sympathetic to Guido, he makes Guido's purpose all powerful. Guido is everything in the movie, right? Okay, he's everything in the movie. Okay, now that is my problem in the film, that in a collaborative thing, even life is collaborative, right? You get through life, you can't resolve, okay, you can't resolve your personal problems by running your whole life in your head like that in a circus. You can't. You have to deal with your family, you have to deal with your colleagues, you have to deal with all of them, right? Okay, yeah, that is the point. It is in some way, I won't use the word objectionable, let us say it is suspect. I will say use the word, it is suspect in some way. The viewpoint is suspect in some way. Okay, because he pushes it aside as of no consequence. This is my sense of the movie. Okay, that is why I find that there's some philosophical problems with 8.5. Okay, shall we go to the next one? We can go to this. What is the film? I don't know. All of you saw this film, of course. Mohammed hasn't seen, but this Irma Web. Irma Web takes the opposite position. The director has no place at all in the film. It's actually about a whole lot of the crew of a film are assembling with this woman who is a Chinese actress. It's a beautiful Chinese actress. What's her name?
Maggie Chung.
Maggie Chung. She's beautiful. She's there. She's being taken to do a remake of a 1916 French movie by the name of I think I forget, the vampire or something, the vampires or so. And Irma Web is also a character in that. I think I think one of the sequences is that is remaking that. Okay. No, the point is here, the director he's obviously somebody. Jean-Pierre Léaud, who plays that role, was the protagonist of 400 Blows, right? He's a very key actor in Truffaut's Ouvrage, which makes him a very key actor in the French New Wave. And you can take this actor who played this, Jean-Pierre Léaud, is actually playing a new wave filmmaker, okay, a new wave author. And there's a lot of commentary in the film talking about the new wave as something of the past, criticism of the new wave, navel gazing of the new wave, full of themselves. They can't produce cinema. They can't. There's actually, this is made by some person with some kind of, shall we say, deeply critical of the, the author attitude towards cinema, that basically cinema has to be shown to people. This is basically the characteristic. But in spite of taking this position, he still made an intriguing art film. This is not a commercial film, it's an art film. It is as intriguing as any art film would be. Okay, so the question is, okay, so the question is, and then the camera style, if you use the camera style, he uses a handheld camera. Many of Godard's, tricks of filmmaking, he uses. Okay, so all these are there. And also the fact, this cinephilia, the fact that the filmmaker is some person who's admired, or rather old movies of some particular time, of an old world movies. He admires that and he's trying to remake this. Okay, like, yeah, probably a day for night. But I think I take it directly as a negation of 8.5. It seems like that. Yeah, probably day for night. There's a lot of stuff there. Yeah, day for night, possibly. Okay, there's a negation of, you see, day for night, all said and done, is a fairly commercial film in the sense. Truffaut later on started making commercial films. Okay, so you can't really have a complaint against Truffaut's later movies, because you started making movies, thrillers and that sort of thing. They're really, they're easy movies. They're not difficult movies. They had an audience of some sort, right? The important thing here is, okay, that the Rene is in crisis, emotional crisis. He hasn't made a movie for a long time. And this Maggie Chung gets his rubber suit. That scene is very important, I think, that scene where, she wears a rubber suit and she goes along and steals that necklace. What do you make of that? It seems to be at the center of the. Does anybody make any sense of that? What do you make of it? It seems to be at the center of the movie. Mohammed, I would suggest you see this movie. To get hold of it and see it. It's a very interesting movie. This thing about this Irma Web. It's a very interesting film. What do you make of that? Does anybody have an idea? What does he make of it? It seems to be at the center of the film, but we can't really make out what does he mean by that scene. It's very powerful. It works very well. Okay, it's as if this woman is in a trance, in a hypnotic trance in some way, and she's actually, I mean, somehow that the artistic process of making a film has got to her. This is the way I see it, that it's got to her in some sense. Okay, gets into character, or rather the process has sort of enveloped her in some way, right? She gets into character, the process has enveloped her in some way, and somehow she's become that character. There's certain magic is produced. Okay, whereas in 8.5, the magic is only for the director. Here the director is not even present. Just being part of the process of filmmaking infuses magic into the whole thing, into the relationships. Okay, so what you could say, okay, but it's turned on by the costume. The costume puts her into some kind of trance, puts her into this. That whole process of filmmaking without the director even being present somehow, animates the whole thing, right? Because of the natural chemistry between the various people there, because of the relationships, in spite of the antipathy that many of them have towards each other. When you have this kind of thing, they are not, shall we say, working at loggerheads. Somehow they get together, something is happening. So finally the movie is produced. In movies doesn't happen really, because they get another chap, another person who want to continue the film. He has no idea what Rene wanted. He has no idea at all. So this is what he does, is that he tries to shoot it, and they look at what Rene has done. And finally you see what Rene has produced. He's completely, it is a man who's completely broken down. Okay, he has no mind at all. What he has made of that footage which he has shot, edited, is some gibberish actually. Okay, it makes no sense at all. But the point is this, that somehow, okay, this movie is rich in spite of the fact that no movie is made. Okay, it does not end with the mind of Rene. It does not end with the mind of anybody, that some kind of thing has happened. It seems to be more, telling you, okay, how to put it, it is that God made the world. The world is more, shall we say, is a richer place than the mind of a director. I would say, let's see it like that. After all, what is art, right? I would say, I mean, if you put it slightly for a person with religious belief, I would say art as man's effort to prove to God that he could also be divine in some sense, right? God, what did God created? He created trees, he created human beings, he created planets, he created the universe. Beings created art, they created philosophy, they created all man-made objects. But these man-made objects are some kind of replica of, in some way, replicate the world in some way, right? So the question is, it seems to me that the arts, in some way, the arts are some kind of attempt on man's part, on human beings' part. Man will be frowned upon, humans' part, to replicate God's world in some way. So the question is, if this film is not made, if not there, God's world is still there. I'm using the religious terminal, not that I particularly believe in religion, but one can understand, even without religion, the fact that the world itself is there. It is rich in various things. It's rich in relationships. It's rich in this. It's rich in that. It's a celebration of the world in some sense, right? So what the film does is celebrate the relationships. Okay, the very opposite of 8.5, where it's basically a celebration of the author's mind, right? It's a celebration of his own thing. Here he's saying the mind of this the director or whatever, the creator, is of no consequence because the world itself is rich. This is the way I see the film. Does anybody have any take on this, which would, shall we say, uh, why is it put in there? Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Why has it been put in there? I don't know. See, I'll tell you, it's not a negative thing, right? Okay, it's not. There's no negative thing there. It's a way of, how to put it, to get out, to talk about love and to talk about attraction without bringing in the cliche of romance, right? See, if you put it as a man-woman romance, it will become cliche, wouldn't it? This is the way I see it. No, I have not thought about this. But if you put a man-woman romance, there has to be some relationship, some attraction of some sort. Anna, whoever asked me the question, can you please answer that? There has to be some kind of relationship or attraction of some sort in the film. Would have to be. Otherwise, how does it gel? How does it, how do the various parts come together? I think it's necessary in almost every kind of story, almost stories, okay, for the story to be put together, not all stories, to be put together through some central relationship of some sort. Even if you take, for example, you take something like Lawrence of Arabia, which is an all-male thing, right? What is at the center of Lawrence of Arabia? If you take Lawrence of Arabia, what is the center of Lawrence of Arabia? It is Peter O'Toole and Omar Sharif, right? Okay. Now, Omar Sharif is a completely fictional character. There was no such character in the thing. The point is that Omar Sharif, Peter O'Toole relationship there, it's not a homosexual relationship, but the point is that relationship is the thing which keeps that film together. You can't have only Lawrence, right? You have to have a relationship of some sort binding the film together. I think so. What happens is that in any story you have, right, there has to be a binding of some sort, at least one relationship. Now, if you're going to celebrate the world, you have to have a relationship of some kind of relationship coming together. Now, in this thing, Maggie Chung is not into women, in the sense she's not a lesbian, but the other one seems to be. She is, or rather, she sort of, yeah. So I think that basic thing of attraction between them is necessary to sort of create that thing of, to bring that story together. No, I mean, I would put it to you. What do you think? You think what I'm saying is
So also, what I think, sir, it might be there to create more conflicts, sir. Like, one of the women uses that spreads a rumor
correct?
that,
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
that might also be
It
driving the
has to
plot.
be. Yeah,
Yes.
agreed. But it's plus and minus. It's a kind of thing, both ways it works, right? Okay. So the question is that relationship there has to be a solid relationship in the middle, right? That relationship will be a conflicting relationship, so plus and minus, opposites and whatever, right? But unless that there's some kind of relationship suggested, that story would not. Just imagine, all you have to do in all this sort of, when you have doubts, remove that woman from the story. What will happen to the story? Just imagine if you remove that, the other woman, Zoe, right? If you remove her from the film, what would happen to the story? Would it hold together? No, I think that relationship, there wouldn't be conflict. There wouldn't also be attraction. Okay, that central thing, that central relationship which holds things together is necessary in every single story, in my opinion. Unless you have that relationship will have plus and minus. But unless that relationship is there, plus and minus or whatever the conflict, the thing is there, the story will not. And this film holds together, right? It holds together. It holds very well together. And it's basically a kind of celebration of the, the crew, the way of, it's more of a celebration of filmmaking, in my opinion, as a process, as a process, filmmaking as a process, than 8.5 is. And I think that central thing where that magic is produced in Maggie Cheung is some kind of manifestation of the success of the process. You get me? Okay. It's not, I mean, it's a manifestation only in her. She's only a person who comes and breezes out. But even she feels the magic of that. That manifestation is required. Okay, that's all I'm saying. So when we think about it, it's not an easy thing to describe. Okay, should we go to the next one? Next thing, to blow up. Let's go to blow up. Now, blow up is another film I think most of you would have seen. I think Mohammed would also have seen blow up. You would have seen it, I think. Antonioni's Blow Up. It's a very old film. In this, this photographer is trying to take pictures. Now, the thing of what is this thing about the photographer is, the photographer is only, he's a fashion photographer. He's only concerned with the look of things taken out of context. Okay. That is the look of things. He's only bothered about the look of things. Okay. Everything is out of context. Take this, take that gesture, grimace, gesture, a propeller taken out of an antique shop, okay, placed somewhere, it has no meaning. So the entire thing is to take everything as an element of design, to sort of, put design into everything, only in the look of things. He is not looking for meaning, he's not looking for narration, right? He's not looking for anything like that, right? This is the way they established this guy's thing, played by David Hemmings. This is how the basic thing they do. Okay. So the question is, okay. So the question is that he has no relationship with any of the objects. He is basically a very successful guy, will play pots of money. And what he does is, he's placed in a situation where he is forced to dig out the truth. Right now, what Antonioni does in this particular film, okay, particular thing, is to provide the parallel thing of the artist, right? There's an artist there, right? That artist is producing works of art, and what does the artist do? He produces it at random almost, and then looks for a certain focus, a point of focus. You remember that scene? I don't know if you've, all of you've seen it recently. There's a certain point of focus. Okay. I saw it a long time ago, but I saw it again this time just to sort of talk about it. That point of focus is that the trousers leg of that thing. And without that point of focus, that the entire painting would have no value at all. Okay. So the question is, what this means is, it is the same thing like, I told you the first thing, a photograph of a balloon, okay, would have no point of focus, whereas a sculpture or a painter doing it, like Cezanne doing fruits on a table, would bring some point of focus, would give some kind of emphasis in a certain way to bring out a certain truth in which the photograph of a bowl of flowers would not have, right? You get me? This is what he does, right? So the question is, the important thing is that the truth has the elements of the composition, the elements of the painting have to be made subordinate to a certain point of focus. Okay. It's only when made point of focus, it's subordinated to the point of focus, that it becomes a painting, does it become a work of art. Okay. That is the way that fellow talks about it. And I think it's deliberately brought in as a parallel, because this man's thing is never to focus. It's entirely the moment, entirely the thing. It's entirely the look of the thing. There is no, that kind of focus is not there in the thing. So what happens is that when he goes and takes pictures of this park of this woman, he's just taking those pictures entirely as what? Entirely as appearances. Okay. He just wants them, actually, he wants to use those pictures in a book, which is some collection of photographs that he's taking as a last closing photograph, without any idea in his mind of how he's going to use it, except as a picture of peace. In fact, he says it's a picture of peace. But what happens is that when the picture actually comes out, he finds far from being peace. Okay. There's evidence of a murder there, right? There's evidence of a murder. There's actually a dead body. There's a gun aiming a thing. So he is forced to probe into this particular thing, and he discovers a certain thing. And you just look at the way it is put there, okay? He says, I saw a man killed, he says, right? Just look at this, right? Just look at the conversation there. Okay. So the other man says, who? This guy doesn't say, I don't know. Okay. He says someone, right? Now the question is, I don't know, which poses a question. I don't know, that is something needs to be found out, right? Okay. He says someone, which is another way of saying that I don't really care. It's just that killing was just in the event a certain thing. Okay. He's not really bothered about the cause and effect. He's not trying to piece together. He's not trying to find any truth there, right? But the point is that when he does this and then he looks for the thing, when he goes around, he's forced to look for the truth in those pictures that he's doing, right? So the question is, and after this, what happens in the pop concert, right? In the pop concert, it's a very interesting thing. The pop concert, look, there are the 2 or 3 ideas in this film. Probably if there's any problem in this film, it's that there is not one idea, but two or three ideas. That pop concert, when he gets hold of that guitar, right? They're all fighting for it. It's a pop musician's guitar. It is worth, I mean, they're fighting over it, right? But the question is, this man fights with all of them and gets that thing, and he comes out and looks at it. It's a broken guitar piece. He throws it on the ground. Okay, it's worthless. He throws it on the ground. It's worthless, right? Because the person looks at it. What is it? What is he thrown here? He picks it up and he throws it back there. The point is, it's become worthless outside context. So the question is that thing of the truth, whatever that the element is, that value it has, exists only in that particular context. Outside that context, it has no value. This is basically that, right? This is the penultimate scene in fact, right?
Yes.
So the question is, whatever he thought, the body, okay, he's not discovered truth finally, because he finds there's no body, there are no pictures, there's no evidence, there is nothing except some grass which is bent. That's the only evidence. All he has got is inference, right? He hasn't got truth. Okay. So the question is, this is what is finally is left with inference, and finally you come to that tennis game. What is a tennis game? A lot of critics have found it. It says it means anything. It could be like a Rorschach test. That is, to whoever looks at it in whatever way, it would mean whatever, right? That is the thing. Mohammed, you're familiar with this film?
Oh, absolutely. That's
Yeah.
that explains actually
Uh,
in the States, for example, half of the country believes that the election was stolen back
yeah.
on from the Trump.
Yeah.
And whenever that you go into any discussion presenting the truth from the person in the street to the Supreme Court, there is nothing, no evidence there.
Yeah.
The person still believes,
Yeah.
because that they believe, because of that this concrete blind belief.
Yeah.
It's the truth.
Yeah. I think, the last scene in this film, this tennis match, okay, it is that to believe any kind of thing, to any kind of truth, to have any kind of thing, okay, you have to have belief in the tennis ball, right? Okay. It's like this.
Yeah.
You look at history. If you look at history, for instance, you look at history. Now you have to have belief that the history follows a certain pattern. The Marxists will tell you that this is class struggle. Okay. Some other kind of historians will tell you something else, the will of the leader or some such thing. Okay. So the question is, unless you have belief in a certain pattern making, a certain form of pattern making, okay, that the pattern owes to this, the pattern comes out of this, it comes out of the history, repeats itself. Unless you have belief in a certain kind of pattern making, nothing makes any sense. This is the way I see the tennis ball. What you've said exactly echoes what I've said. Okay, without belief in some sense, in some kind of thing, okay, that there is no truth at all. You have to believe somewhere. Okay,
Yeah,
you have to believe in something that unless you have some belief, which is, fundamental thing, that democracy is good, that human lives are valuable, okay, or you have a belief that, that history has a purpose, okay, or it's guided in some way, that human beings are guided some way. And all these are various kinds of belief. It could be materialistic, like the Marxist thing, or it could be, but the point is, all these truths demand a certain element of belief. And I think the tennis ball, finally, when he picks up and throws, okay, that when you believe that the tennis ball exists, the whole world begins to make sense, right? The game begins to make sense. That's the way it is, okay? So that, I think the whole movie comes together with the tennis ball like that. It is not just a joke or some such thing. He's talking about that animating belief, which is at the center of all truth, with the center of all art. Unless you have that, You will not have that. That is what it's all about. Okay. Any questions on this point? Because this is a very controversial film, and many people, including some top critics in the world, thought it was bunk, in the sense that the ending has no meaning at all. It's purely, that it could be read in any way, like a Rorschach test. Somebody said it's a Rorschach, like a Rorschach test. What is this? A question was put up. I'm sorry, I didn't look at that. Rorschach test. It's like that. It can mean anything to anybody. I don't think it is that. I think there's a certain, that it has a certain significance in the context of the movie. Okay. Any questions up to that? Any point? Any questions about this film?
I think that the presentation is very rich, and then I personally have to have those beautiful ingredients to know actually that they mentioned about the joke versus analysis, artist versus craftsman. That the itself is the great discussion. Just a thing that. Celebrating failure. That's the fascinating in the presentation that that can be come up with, the develop and maintain the quite long threads of the discussion. And I think that one of the things that I like to introduce, liking. On the part of the audience, whether or not we like the actor or actress. For example, I do remember I admired Marcello Mastroianni, but I never liked him. As an actor, is a great actor, but not like him. If he would be replaced by Montgomery Clift, an American actor that everybody just sympathize them personally and as an actor, I think that it would be more acceptable.
Correct.
When I watched that movie originally back on the 63, I didn't like the movie because I didn't like the Marcellos, at all. That's the very strange thing.
It makes it narcissistic, makes it narcissistic. Marcello is such a good-looking guy that Fellini imagines himself, as Marcello Mastroianni. Makes it narcissistic.
You said that you didn't like Raj Kapoor because he was narcissist.
Yes, he was.
I love Raj
Kapoor. Anjan said something. Anjan, what was your question?
I'll just tell out the question, sir. What was the... I'm just reading his question, sir.
What was the part of the artist's wife as a crush on the photographer? Before this, the previous, you're right, absolutely. You're right. It resembles the cards in the Rorschach test. Correct. Actually, you're right. Actually, that's actually in a different way. In a different way, the last thing like a Rorschach test, because the whole world is like a Rorschach test in some sense, right? So the question is that you make mention, but the point is, as a thing of focus, there's a thing of faith, there's a question of belief, all that comes in. But it's true that they did resemble a Rorschach test. What was the part of the artist's wife who had a crush on the photographer? Artist's wife, there was. I don't know really. That's a difficult question for me to answer. What exactly? I don't know exactly what the thing was. What exactly is I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. That you'll have to answer for me. I don't know. I couldn't make out what he was doing. See, one of the things we have to, generally is that we mustn't come to the thing that that great artists completely know what they're doing, that everything comes together. They're working with so many elements, especially film, right? A film, when he's got collaboration, he's brought so many things. Scriptwriter is somebody else, this is somebody else. I wouldn't know what she was doing. Without her, the film would have worked perfectly. It would not necessary at all, right? Okay. Let's go to the last one. Last film, La Belle Noiseuse. How did you respond to this movie? It's a 4-hour movie, huh?
So what I made out was somewhere it was trying to convey that...
No, that we'll discuss. I'm saying, generally, do you find it, in terms of, was it interesting enough? Were you able to hold your attention? All of you generally? Were you able to, all of you watched it? One of my favorite movies, but the question is all of you. It's extremely interesting, grabs you, and considering it's 4 hours long, and the important thing is there's a naked woman being shown all the time there. But the point is, this elderly guy holds your attention with a vice-like grip. What's his name? Michel Piccoli. He holds your attention. Piccoli. He holds your attention like that. Mesmerizing his performance. I mean, the question is that he can do this and with almost nothing happening on the screen, he holds your attention like that.
Yep.
It is long. I'll tell you why. We'll discuss why it is long. Okay. It's a great performance, simply with the sort of mesmerizing quality it's got. Okay. Now, this film is, as I said, it's about this young artist, Nicholas, and his girlfriend, Marianne, who go to visit a retired artist called Frenhofer living in a rustic area. That man gave up painting 10 years ago, but the suggestion of an intermediary, Nicholas agrees, okay, that Marianne will pose for Frenhofer. When you say pose, it usually means nude, okay? It means nude posing. No, he has agreed, because he's his girlfriend, he has agreed that she will pose for him. He doesn't take her approval. He doesn't take her approval to make a pose for it, okay? But she doesn't like it. It hurts the relationship. It hurts her. No, posing for an artist is a kind of violation, and she has not been consulted, right? That's the basic issue in the film, right? The thing is, this Frenhofer is a painter who once painted something. His wife was his only model, and his wife posed for a picture which is called La Belle Noiseuse. Okay, name of the painting. It's not explained what it means. Seems to mean that the woman is a disturbance in some sort. It means it's a disturbance, right? So it's basically that the woman has a disturbance or some such thing. That's what it seems to be, and it was a picture that he created at that particular point years ago. It was never completed, right? Now the point is, he doesn't want to talk about it even. It seems to be hidden somewhere, not brought about. People know about its existence, but it's somehow, he says, the way he describes it is, okay, the way he describes it, there was blood on the canvas, he says, to indicate, that it was so much there, it was bleeding on the canvas, is a way of saying that there was so much in it, right? That is what he's talking about. Now, what happens is, I don't know, did you notice the soundtrack in the film? Okay, the soundtrack is full of noises, right? Insect cicadas, for instance, the wind. What is the wind doing in the film? There seems to be, and also in some particular point, he says, this place is silence. The other guy says, what's his name? I forget his name. Nicholas says, okay. And this guy says, it's not silence. It's actually the primal sound of the universe, the sea. Okay. That soundtrack is there. That soundtrack is not a casual sound. It's very important, right? It's extremely important. The sound is very important to this film. It's actually caught there. And it is as if, that basically, and you see the way the film, the thing of when you say long, right? When somebody said the film is very long, Omkar said it was a bit long. See, that I want to make this point. The reason it is long, why the film is long, is he is trying to give you real life things, right? He's trying to give you real life. He's trying to give you the world. In fact, this whole part, the long uncut sequences, the long silences, not silences, the soundtracks, the kind of thing, nothing happening, is a way of telling you about unorganized nature, right? Unorganized world. He's trying to talk about the organization of the world. And the way he's doing it, talking about the organization of the world, is to present the early parts of the movie as unorganized. If you look at, for example, Piccoli's performance itself, the earlier parts of the film, he's virtually let go. Okay. He's drinking something, his mind is somewhere, he's not done anything, his mind is disarray, he hasn't worked on anything, he's just sitting there drinking wine or some such thing. Okay, it's completely unorganized. It's done as if it's unorganized, and Piccoli is giving you a very unorganized performance of somebody completely unorganized. He's sort of drooping. Okay, the very first scene, he's coming in holding that rabbit. Okay, he comes there. What is he there? His mind is somewhere. It's scrambled in some way. Okay. Gradually, as the film goes along, he gains that kind of thing of organizing himself, right? He's organized in this film. Okay. The first bits of the film can be talked about a thing of failure of organizing, a question of unorganized, living a life of complete abandon, completely nothing. Okay. They're living there. The house is like that. Everything is like that. There's nothing going on. Okay. This is the basic thing, right? In fact, you could take this thing of, I would take, for example, the whole thing of chaos. Okay. You take chaos. Okay. Take chaos in the original thing. Take chaos, organize chaos into some kind of, the focus with a single meaning, with some kind of thing to produce art, right? So what the question is that this film begins gradually with this thing of chaos. what do you make of the first scene? I didn't know when they start making they plot play acting there. Okay, Nicholas and Marianne play act. They pretend to be something else. Those two people are watching them. I don't know what to make of that scene. It seems to be, I don't know. I'm still wondering why he brought that there. But the point is that thing of chaos is there. The organization, the relationships are in disarray. There's no mutual understanding. There is no mutual thing. It's fairly common, fairly, shall we say, random thing, right? Then gradual things start coming in place as this fellow starts painting. She herself is completely hostile in the initial thing. Marianne is completely hostile to Fraunhofer in the initial stages. But after the first stage, she becomes adamant and she becomes interested in continuing. Okay. Who was bored with a normal relationship? Who were they?
I think Nicholas and
possible,
Marianne.
why they were play acting. I don't know exactly what to make of that. Okay. I don't know exactly what to make of that scene at all. But I don't know how important it is to film. Probably, I don't know, because even the film, the voiceover has some put something of that into the story. I don't know what to make of it. Anyway, the point is that she gets involved in the process of filmmaking, of the process of painting. So the point here is, again, okay, we have to accept a certain fundamental truth about art. Okay, it's not simply about the artist expressing himself or herself. There is a sitter is important here. Okay, here there is a kind of union between artist and sitter. The sitter is carried on by the artist in some way, right? The sitter is carried on. So the question is, as she becomes more, when he loses out, he says, I don't want to do anymore. I can't do anymore. It's a failure. She pushes him on. She poses for him in various ways. She eggs him on. Now, the point is there that it's wrong to believe that art is the product of only the artist's expression. It is not only the artist's expression. Art is the product of the object in front of you. It is the artist's thing. And the very fact that there's a common audience and the common spectatorship for this, readership for the work of art, is indicative that there's a whole, that world out there, which even when you're describing an inner world, psychologically, inner feelings and all that, those feelings have to be recognized by other people. In other words, you're dealing not only with yourself, but with an outside world. And without that outside world, this entire thing of expression makes no sense at all, right? So it's your Fellini thing of talking about his expression, in my sense, is completely not valid. Okay. By putting our Marcello Mastroianni in that sin is, in my opinion, what you said is right. It's a lack of faith of some sort. It's completely narcissistic. Okay. Why put him there? And you see Marcello Mastroianni in something like, what was that film of Marcello, what is that film of Pietro Germi? Divorce Italian Style. I mean, he's a great actor. He's great in comedy. Okay. He's a great actor. But here he's unbearable. I couldn't stand him at all. Okay. Because he's, and this glasses, this, that, all his, tricks, his charm, oozing charm of every pore, in every pore is what he's doing. That's actually, it's sort of, I don't know. I have problems with that. Okay. I don't like Marcello at all in this film, actually. I agree with you there. Okay. So the point is, this aimlessness, okay, of Fraunhofer, the aimlessness of the film initially, gradually it gets an aim, it gradually gets this thing of organization. Things have to be organized, okay. The film gets, the painting gets done. And how does it get done? It is as if, he takes an old painting. I don't know, I'm not sure it is La Belle Noiseuse. I don't think it is La Belle Noiseuse. That is not shown. It is some old painting with his wife's picture there, which the wife has liked. And he paints her bottom on the painting. And the wife is deeply upset by the fact that you painted that, she's taken that. It is as if some quasi-successful painting with his wife was posing for it, which was actually which had some element of magic in it. He's trying to bring that magical object somehow and infuse this painting with some kind of magic. Okay, he's doing on top of that. I don't know. Probably, like how do you put it? Like, this you should think of, supposing you took a nail out of the original cross. Took a nail out of the original cross and you put it in a play of some sort, that magic from the original thing, right, would come out, pay passion play if you put it there. the magic from the original thing will enter here somehow. I think that this thing is there also in, I don't know, you should look at this this movie of Rivet's called, the very first film of Rivet. What was that called? Paris Belongs to Us. Have a look at it. It's a very difficult film. It's extremely difficult, but it's very rewarding if you look at it. Look at Paris Belongs to Us. Exactly what that is. It's a difficult film. So anyway, whatever it is, it seems to be that this painting has a certain magic, with which that magic in the canvas, okay, is somehow infused in this painting, and this painting becomes successful. Once the painting starts gaining some kind of momentum of its own, Rivet does not show us the painting at all. So in effect, what he's doing is, okay, he's dealing with a painter, all whose paintings he's showing are basically not whatever successful paintings at all. So you cannot say, in fact, I'll tell you one of the things what critics would say, I don't think much of the pictures, okay, but he's deliberately talking only about his, deliberately showing you only his unsuccessful works, his or incomplete works. He's not showing you his successful work. And finally, when that film, that successful work comes out, what is the expression on their faces when they see the picture? Okay, it is horror. Okay, so what is he saying? That the sitter, which is why this blood on the canvas and all that, the cruelty, this thing of cruelty is very important, right? Now, if you look at art in some way, you look at it, it's great works of art are cruel. You look at Picasso, you look at Rembrandt, you look at the kind of stuff, right? They're very cruel very often, right? Goya, you look at all of them. That element of cruelty, you look at Bruegel, I'm mentioning all the guys who are my favorites. I mean, you look at them, that element of cruelty is very necessary. So one of the things about what would make it cruel, it's not, for instance, okay, it is not feel good. Art is not feel good. Okay, here he is actually making the point that it's cruel, that it is it's horrific in some way. But the point is that horror can only be understood by those. Okay, that horror can only be grasped by those who understand the picture. The girl, okay, she says it's beautiful. In fact, the wife puts a cross on it. It's unholy. Okay, you put a cross on something, okay, the thing of vampires, you put on a gravestone, you put a cross, because what you're doing, dealing with death, something unpalatable in some way, right? You're trying to make that something unpalatable, you make it palatable, putting the cross on it. So actually something, something which is extremely, disturbing. Okay, you try to pacify, you try to domesticate by putting a cross on it, is what she's doing. So the question is, Fraunhofer can't bear it at all. So what he does, he walls it up. Okay, it's so horrible that he walls it up and produces another work we call this posthumous work, which is that it is produced by a dead artist, right? He produces something, it produced actually as a dead artist, he's producing it. Okay, so this is what it is. So the question is, okay, and then finally at the end of it, okay, the original painting has been seen only by a handful of people, and you notice at the end they have witnessed that there's an element of truth there in that painting they've got, which is not palatable anymore. It's not palatable at all. And the point is, now that they've seen this, the truth, they've got this truth to this painting, they're embarrassed by it. They don't want to meet each other. They avoid each other at the party finally. Okay, Fraunhofer keeps away from Marianne. Okay, so the question is, yeah, why trouble? I don't know. See this. I also don't know why this trouble. I look upon it as mad, as chaos. As I would look upon it like that. Okay, I don't actually. I've not been able to understand this thing at all. I would look upon it as disturbance. I would look upon it as madcap. I would know all various things. Right, disturbed. I don't know trouble. I look this. There's some problem with this translation. I saw it as crazy. The various translation. I don't know what it means at all. Okay, but I don't know. She makes a troubled artist. Probably I don't know. Okay, she troubles the artist. Okay, trouble. Let's look at the word meaning of the troubled. Okay, what does the word troubled mean? Okay, look at some other unconventional thing. Okay, troubled. That means it problematizes. It sort of it creates a. Let us say it's an element. Let us say this much. Okay, the woman the woman as she appears needs to be organized in some way, pacified in some way, domesticated in some way, in some particular thing, right? You can take it as that. I don't know what to make of it actually, but the point is that that is the way I see this film. Okay, what the meaning of the title is, nobody seems to really know what it means. Even from the watching the movie, you can't make. But I see this entire film as about being organization of some sort. At the same time, what the truth comes is unpalatable. That I find very interesting. Okay, provocator also somebody else. Yeah, it's possible. Provocator sounds also interesting in some way. Something which provokes the work of art in some way. See, something a certain what is the thing, a certain provocation which produces the work of art. You need, look, it's like this, right? You put a, shall we, a grain of sand into a mollusk, into a, shall we say, what is the thing, the pearl oyster, right? That develops into the that grain of sand is an irritant. Okay, it's an irritant. Now, what does the oyster do with that grain of sand? It sort of granularly envelops it in some kind of thing to make it comfortable for itself, right? So basically, an irritant, a provocation of some sort in the shell of the oyster becomes responsible for this, what you call the work of art, which is the pearl, right? In that way. And this is an analogy. I'm not using it as an argument. It's an analogy, which is basically not. But this is the way I see it. That the woman is a provocator. Is actually probably the best way. Okay, is probably the best way of everything. The result is you produce it. But this notion of the horrific end product. Now that horror could be psychological or metaphysical, okay, but it seems to be that this cruelty is a necessary ingredient. What would you call, let's look at this, what would you call feel good art? What would you call something which makes you feel very comfortable? Okay, there's a word for it. It's called kitsch. You're familiar with this word, kitsch? Kitsch. Okay, kitsch is actually some kind of feel good thing. Everything made pleasant, everything made sweet, everything sweetened up in some way is kitsch, right? So what this guy is working against is this notion of kitsch. So the question is that finally art, when it's produced, okay, is cruel, it's unpalatable. Okay, it's only because it's unpalatable. If you look at the kind of movies I've been suggesting to you, a large number of them are unpalatable, and probably more unpalatable works will be given to you. Okay, I favor the unpalatable work of art simply because it's sort of, you, unless you feel that pain of some sort, unless you feel pain, unless you're made uncomfortable, it doesn't sort of make you reflect. It doesn't make that. So the art has to do that. There has to be pain in that work of art. And I think that pain, that horror, this chap would call it horror. This is what I would call it. So that finally that thing of the horror of, okay, it comes out of common experience. So something which is not even, except, volunteer for. She doesn't, she becomes the kind of provocator. That's the thing. She doesn't volunteer. She doesn't, that seems to be, the provocator seems to be the best word actually. Okay. And this is the way this film ends, that they finally produce something and both of them are embarrassed by what they've seen. Okay. They don't want to talk about it. Okay. It cannot be discussed. They rather stay away from each other. They've seen something. It's something ghastly. I don't know. Have you come across words like this, which defeat? I don't know. There's a lot of painting like that. Some of Picasso, some of this guy's Francis Bacon. Some of it, you look at some of this thing. There's a certain revulsion. It creates a certain. I'll suggest some movies. I'll be showing you some movies later in this series or whatever. Okay, where this element of, I don't know whether it's called revulsion. Look at Dead Ringers, for instance. Look at Dead Ringers. Okay, it creates a disturbance, right? It creates a certain horror. There's a certain thing about it, right? About the relationship. There's that element is required, I would say. And this film is probably talking about misogynistic. No, I don't think so. Misogynic, no. The film, is there any misogynistic film? No, I don't think so, actually. If anything at all, if in fact probably because you're using a nude woman there. But Rivet is actually a guy who uses. You've seen the film, Mohammed? You've seen the
Well,
whole film?
you know that the I don't know that that's the thing, that why she's the troublemaking or provocateur, and the something that she is not really the initiated to something that is her own will. You know that the somebody is being the assaulted, and when what she was wearing and what she was doing at the time of night in that place like that, and all the time is the victim, that the thing. I haven't seen the movie, of course, that this is speculation on my part, but I am wondering whether or not that she is making a victim,
Yeah. No,
or
not quite. No, actually, no, you see it at some particular point, she leads him on. Okay. At some point, she's not the victim at all, actually. It's only initially, okay, she's forced into this position, but very second day onwards, she's leading him on. In fact, at some particular point, she wants to. Okay. So the question, the question is, she's prepared to. No, I wouldn't see this particularly, except a nude woman is a nude woman. Okay, is some kind of what do you say? It's some kind, but I think I wouldn't look upon that very seriously. I think it's just a metaphor for something. The point is that somebody has to submit. The thing object has to exhibit itself, unless the object, and you have to have an animated object of some sort, right? And there has to be a conflict of some sort. There has to be sitter versus painter. You have a look at the movie and see and see if what you're saying is. I don't think
Okay.
it holds good. Yeah, have a look at the movie. It's very. I mean, it's available fairly freely. So this is my thing. Yeah, he doesn't. The wife was his model at once. He says, when I started painting her because I loved her, I stopped painting her because I loved her. Right? Okay, it's the same thing. That he stopped painting her because it hurt her too much. The point that is the wife. He says the wife. Okay, the hurt her too much means what? Not the point of posing. The point is that the painting, what happens, the thing, the final product is too hurtful. They can't bear it. Okay, they can't bear the final painting. There's too much there. It is them, it is not them. So it should be, see, I would see it like that generally. You have a look at the film yourself and see if the misogynistic, I don't find it. Does anybody else find this misogynistic streak? I don't know. I mean, you'll have to tell me about it. But his other films generally uses women a lot, and he doesn't use them like this at all. In fact, a lot of people, after watching Celine and Julia Go Boating, which was taken to be a lesbian film, they thought that this was something else. Okay, but anyway, but this is my reading of the film. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody has any? Does it make any sense, whatever I said about the film?
Yes, it does. Just one question, sir. I just
Please.
wanted to ask, what did you make of the ending when she says no?
What does she say no to?
The very final thing, when the guy asks that let's go, and she says she denies it.
Oh, to Nicholas.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. No, I think something has happened to her in some way, and then it's a certain look. I'll tell you, I don't know how to put it. She's in somehow or other. Nicholas is not a very positive character, right? He's the guy. He's actually an up and coming artist trying to somehow, I think the wife's sister used also, we don't know. I think the sister is used only to communicate certain things to the wife, which Nicholas can't say directly. She's brought in order to say certain things. I don't, but obviously Nicholas, I mean, she can't go with him anymore. Look, there's the indication in the film that Nicholas in some way saved her life or some such thing, right? Okay. Her life was in the question is, in the process of making this thing, she gains strength in some way. Okay. She becomes strong in some way. She gains in some strength, and so she rejects Nicholas. No more Nicholas, kind of thing. Right. And there's also this thing of the painter's wife having had an affair with the collector earlier, the other chap. Okay, there's something there. What to make of all these things, I don't know. But as I said, this there's a lot of stuff in this film, Rivet's film, where he's replicating in trying to unorganized life and all that. So there'll be a lot of details in the earlier part, a lot of introductions in the earlier part, which are not calculated like that. They would just put in things like that, right? They would put in things so that gradually the film gains. It's like, Celine and Julia Go Boating, right? You've seen that film earlier. There are two aspects of the film. One is completely organized. Again, it works like this. The entire film within the film is completely organized, and not a narrative, completely organized in terms of drama. The thing outside that, without organization, right? So this film works like that. There are two parts of it. One, now here, of course, it's a gradual organization of the material. There are actually two separate things, one completely unorganized, completely organized. But basically, it is organization versus unorganized. Okay, that seems to be the way these two things are working together. Okay. So thanks a lot. I hope you like the session. Whatever, I thank you very much. Okay.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much, sir. It was a
My pleasure.
wonderful
My pleasure.
session.
Okay.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much.